Wine, Vine, Thrive, Beer. Hello, everyone. I just finished reading a book by Grady Hendrix called HORRORSTOR. But I'd never heard of this book. I'd never even heard of this author until I think it was sometime last year, 2021. SST Publications out of the United Kingdom. Phenomenal publisher, by the way. Check them out, man. They make some terrific signed and limited edition books. High quality, low prices. Some terrific authors. And I'm finna add another name to the list of terrific authors, and that's Grady Hendrix. Like I said, I'd never read anything by the author before, and when they released this book, HORRORSTOR, I don't know if it was fear of missing out or what it was, but I went ahead and bought it. Not knowing anything about it, I bought the book. It sounded kind of cool. Something like an IKEA store and making a monster story in it. It sounded neat. I back in the 90s, I worked in retail. I spent a couple years at a grocery store. I spent a couple years at the Home Depot in the 90s. And so I could relate to a fantasy about what could possibly happen in one of these stores if things broke loose or if I was turned loose. All sorts of fantasies came up. But anyway, I've had this book on my shelf maybe a year, something like that. I don't exactly remember how long I've had it. And I'm running out of room, man. I mean, I've got some strategic places for stuff that I've got ordered, but in the other spots where I've got stuff stuck, I've run out of space. So when I add stuff, I'm kind of having to subtract stuff. And I'm looking at this book, HORRORSTOR, this SST limited edition. I'm looking at it on the shelf, and it seems like that might be something that I could sell. I think they sell maybe in the neighborhood of $100 on eBay. It seems like I might have paid something like $50 US for it when I bought it. And it's one of those books where I keep eyeballing it over there. I keep eyeballing it thinking, you know, that might be the one. But on the other hand, what if down the road sometime I read it and love it, then I got to go back and buy it at a higher secondary market price? That don't make sense either. So it's kind of been sitting there figuring I'd get to it eventually. And one day I'm on eBay messing around and I found an affordably priced copy of the softcover trade edition. I'd seen this thing at Barnes & Noble multiple times, and I think it's 20 bucks-ish. Let's see if I can find a price on it somewhere. Well, it says 15 bucks. Seems like it was higher than that at the Barnes & Noble. I don't know. Anyway, I never did buy it. And I found the cheaper copy on eBay, and I went ahead and bought it, and I read it. And I'll go ahead and break the news. Very, very disappointed in the fact that I'm not going to be able to sell my limited edition book. It's going to have to stay on the shelf, and I'm going to have to come up with other ways to make room for new additions to the book collection. Why am I shrugging? Anyway, I'll talk a little bit of a review about the book, what I thought and how I felt. Before I do that, I've mentioned the SST Publications version of HORRORSTOR, and I've got it wrapped, dust jacket wrapped in Mylar. That's why it's so shiny. I don't remember the rest of the words to that song, but mine is signed and numbered, number 175. I'll just quickly show you the limitation page there. The signature from Grady Hendrix, the number. So it's a neat book, a lot of neat pictures. We're not going to take the time to go through and show you everything about this book here. Maybe I will at the end. I don't know. I'll think about it. But I didn't read the limited edition. I read the trade hardcover, and the trade hardcover is neat as can be also. The problem with Grady Hendrix is they seem to have a bad habit. Nice signed limited editions coming out from SST Publications. There's 3 or 4 more coming. Already got them things pre-ordered myself. But the trade soft covers that they sell at the Barnes and Nobles and all them stores, they look so doggone cool. So HORRORSTOR looks like a catalog for an IKEA or something like that, a furniture store. And they work, these people that are in the book here, I'll talk about 2 characters by name, a young lady named Amy, 24-ish, as well as a guy named Basil, who's probably around the same age. I don't remember if they said specifically. Amy is a young lady who is what you'd call an underachiever. She looks down upon the people that work in retail. Though she works in retail, She thinks there's much better in life, but she doesn't go get it. She doesn't keep up on her bills. She's irresponsible in all sorts of different ways. Sarcastic. She's not a good employee. She's not really a good friend, and all these different things. But for somehow, she's an endearing character still. You kind of like her. If you've ever read Janet Ivanovich, Stephanie Plum series, 28, 29 of them. I love that series, by the way. I recommend it to anyone. Start with One for the Money. But she reminds me a little bit, for a comparison, to a Stephanie Plum character, something like that. A rather irresponsible girl who's got a lot of brilliance but underachieves, doesn't undisciplined, gets herself into trouble, shoots her mouth off when she probably should keep her mouth shut, which I can associate with. But anyway, a character that I like to read about because they tend to be a lot of fun. This girl in the book, Amy, is a lot like that. And then Basil is the assistant manager sort of a character, maybe the number 2 in the store. And he's a company guy, toes the company line, uses all the company jargon, says all the right stuff. Amy thinks he's got it in for her because she's underachieving and he's always on her about things. She's worried that he's going to fire her the next time he sees her, so she's always hiding. She's trying to get transferred out to a different store. And things are going wrong in the store. Things are going bad. They're coming in and finding bad things happening, vandalism type things, some gross things and stuff like that. So they end up spending the night in the store trying to find out who's doing these things and how do we get it to stop before the big shots from corporate are supposed to be here in the morning, and they want to make sure they've solved the problem before they show up. And I really don't know how much farther I should go before we start getting into spoiler territory, but needless to say, this is a horror story, but it's more of a fun horror story. It's not deeply scary and dark. It's kind of fun. I would say, comparing it to movies, a little bit Zombieland, where you got zombies and they're killing people and it's dark, scary, depressing stuff, but somehow they make it fun and funny and noirish. And this is not Zombieland, but I kind of got that feel to me, where you should be scared, you should be depressed, but really you're waiting more for the characters to do this kinds of things that they're going to do. A lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff. One of the things I thought was really cool, like I said, I spent some time in retail in my teens and early 20s. I had a buddy. We both worked at the Home Depot he still works there. He's a big shot, but I spent maybe 5 years at the Home Depot. And I remember those days, we were best friends, still are. But I remember in those days, his girlfriend and my girlfriend, they were always annoyed, rolling their eyes about all the talk we did using the company jargon and talking about all these different things that the average person would have no idea what we mean. Like we were speaking in code or a foreign language. They would talk about us being a part of a cult sometimes, acting like we worshipped the icons, the founders of the company, calling them out by name and things like that. And you get a lot of that feeling here. The language, the lingo, the jargon, I don't want to say brainwashing, but it's kind of brainwashing you. The things you do, dogs barking, the things that the companies might do to the things they say to get the employees to do what they want, do the right thing, do whatever the end goal is. But a lot of these companies do that, and it kind of related to me. Now, I never worked at an IKEA, and this is not IKEA. In fact, it's like an IKEA, but in the book, they compare this store, Orsk. You read for a while and you think, oh, this is a knockoff IKEA. In the book, they specifically say, yeah, we work for the knockoff, or the girl says, we work for the knockoff, Amy. We work for a knockoff IKEA. We work for a less good IKEA and stuff like that. So while it is a knockoff IKEA, in the story, it's a knockoff IKEA. And maybe they do that to avoid copyright stuff. I don't know. I've read of authors also, other authors doing something like that in the book, having to change things after it was first written. In one case, there was something going on in the book that was similar to, that could be compared. You kind of got the impression it was based on Scientology. And at some point in the process before publication, they had him in the story compare this religion to Scientology. I think that's how it went. So, and so that you can't say they're copying Scientology, because in the story it's a knockoff of Scientology, and here in the story, Orsk is a knockoff of IKEA. So we're not writing a book about IKEA just by changing the name. We got a knockoff company that's copying IKEA, and they do a good job. I never worked for IKEA, but I'm picturing the IKEA in Tampa when I'm reading this book, and thinking about all these different things and seeing the names that they have for all the pieces of furniture. It really turns out. So reading the book, I loved it. You go a long way before you get anything that could be horror. And some people complained about that. It takes too long to get to it, but I loved that part of it. In fact, I'd say my favorite part of the whole book was that stuff. And then you get into the horror. I'm not going to tell you even what it is, what kind of thing you're dealing with in there. Not going to tell you what it is, but you get into that, and I started getting a little bit worried. Like, how's this going to go? How's this going to work out? What's going on here? And but I still liked it a lot. And then you get to a point where the story is partially resolved. It's not fully resolved, but I'm afraid that they're going to end it now. That the story is going to end here. There's still some pages left, but I'm worried, and I'm getting a little disappointed, thinking, it might have blown it here at the end. But the only reason I tell you that is to tell you to take heart, because if you get almost to the end and you start feeling like, man, they blew it, keep reading. You just got a few more pages, but at the end it's like, yeah, come on. I'm excited. So reading the end of this book, I took I'm way up here, and then I start leveling off, and then I start coming down, and I'm almost at the end here, and I'm thinking, gosh, they just blew it at the end. And then all of a sudden, awesome. A great ending. I recommend the book. Just remember, this is a different kind of horror story. This is about characters. This is about life lessons in a way, about determination and things like that, or some of the things that come into play. But I can't sell the book. So one more book stays on the shelf. Good news and bad news for that. And what's even worse is I've got 3 or 4 more signed limited edition Grady Hendrix books coming in at some point when they're printed and shipped and all that stuff. So I got to find room now for more. Instead of getting rid of stuff, I'm having to find room for the adding of more stuff. But I've got more Grady Hendrix books on the to be read list. And the problem with these is they are trade softcover books that just look so doggone good. Even bigger problem, I'm gonna have to find places for these, because these trade soft covers are so neat. This one was like a catalog all throughout. It's got advertisements and things like that, like a catalog. This one is like a Rolling Stone magazine, and then this one here is like this one I love, an old VHS tape when you go to a rental store, and they'd have the cardboard boxes inside the plastic sleeve, and you'd have to pinch it and the tape would fall out the bottom. Some of you have no idea what I'm talking about, and some of you do. The Smell of Popcorn, Mr. Video, Hollywood Video, and then later on, Blockbuster Video, which I wasn't as big a fan of as the old days. But this book really does look a lot like those. So I'll be reading some more Grady Hendrix, more Grady Hendrix stories, and looking forward to it. I told you that I'd show you the SST Publications edition of that. And it's wrapped in Mylar, so you get a little bit of glistening from the slip case on the dust jacket. But there's what she looks like from SST Publications. And then a little bit of a crease in my my Brodart roll there. I found a spot with a crease and didn't cut it out. I just used it. What the heck? It's on my shelf, so that's I deal with it. Just live with it. It's not the slipcase. Here's our here's the book itself. Cloth binding, foil stamped something, whatever, letters on the cover. High quality binding, Smythe sewn, whatever you call that there. Well, all that stuff, whatever you call it. And yeah, I bought this one from SST, the usual bookmark. We're gonna do a real fast take a look at this. They always come with a card when you buy stuff from SST, at least at this point they still do, which means 400 to 500 cards handwritten per book, perhaps, maybe less, because some of them go to stores anyway. Hi Tim, thank you so much for your horror store order, which is enclosed. Enjoy, take care, Paul. Paul Fry from SST Publications. I showed you my signature page already, so essentially what I'm going to do here is look for some of this artwork in. And there's quite a bit of artwork in here. Let's see who the artist is. Reiko Murakami. Alrighty, so there we go. Artist, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Reiko gets credit for it today, though, on this video. And here I am showing you, looking for the artwork. There's our store, and there's Amy getting ready to go to work on day one of the story, the book anyway. Right here, graffiti. If you, again, when you read the book, you'll know exactly what that's all about. Plays a role. When the worm starts to turn, when you start to get some evidence that something is afoot at the Orsk. Something is definitely afoot at the Orsk. Again, this artwork here. When you read the story, you'll know what it's talking about. It plays a part of it. Some very neat artwork. But again, when I first got this book and I'm flipping through the pages, looking at the pictures, obviously I'm thinking something's going on here and thinking that these pictures will apply, but I don't get much of a hint of what's going on. Something like this was in the softcover too. One of the things that I loved about the softcover edition is between each chapter you would get some sort of advertisements from the store. You'd get performance evaluations. You'd get stuff like that. But as the story went on, they would change in tone. So to start with, you're seeing advertisements for stuff that they sell at the store that you would see at the typical furniture store, and they would be playing it up about how great it is, how great it'll make your life if you got this, and all that kind of stuff. But as the story goes on, you'd start seeing advertisements for not furniture that you wouldn't see at a store, more scarier kinds of things. But they would still play it up like how great it was by describing all the awful things about it. So in the beginning, you would see performance evaluations that were really something you read at a store with a positive store jargon in it. And then later on, you start reading evaluations of a different form with some darker, deeper, scarier things, trying to draw some parallels between the two. So it's kind of neat. I don't know if I showed you this one or not. But again, now that I know the story, it means a whole lot more. And there's a lot of stuff in the back of this SST Publications book. Once the story is over, there's a lot of additional material. I'm just flipping through here, and I'm seeing all sorts of things that weren't in my softcover book. So a lot of additional material as well. I strongly recommend it. I think you're going to have to buy it on eBay or from a friend or secondary market in some way or another. But it's cool. I dig it. Rating, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. That's being a little bit hard on it. I think the very end made me feel real good. But I'll give it 4 out of 5. That's 8 out of 10. That ain't bad. But I feel like that's too low. Anyway, that's how I'm going to rank it. Anyway, really like the book, and I'm really looking forward to the next Grady Hendrix installment. So with that being said, I can't think of any more lies to tell. C'est la vie, baby.